everybody. Welcome back. You are watching You've Got a Thing. I'm Jill Anna Ponisic. I'm the Artistic Director of Milwaukee Opera Theater, and now I'm going to force my colleagues to introduce themselves.
I am Jamie Lynn Gray. I am a co-producer of this program along with Joanna. I am the artistic director of the Constructivists and also a co-founder of the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance, where this program exists. Sherry, I'm just going to toss it to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Sherry Williams-Pinnell, Artistic Director at Brownsville Arts Ensemble and Area Head for the Musical Theater Program at UWM Peck School of the Arts.
Woo!
Hi, I'm Dawn Molly Duane. I am the president-elect at Village Playhouse in West Allis, and this is my first time joining you lovely ladies, so thank you for having me.
It's nice to get some fresh faces here instead of like just me and Joanna talking
over and over again.
Theater people who don't want to talk? What the heck?
I know, right? Well, I think it's part of it is that, you know, I don't think we've found just the right time of day yet to make this happen where we can get, you know, a lot of us have switched to work at home, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's flexible. So we're still sort of working things out, but it's still great because people can watch it whenever they want to. Yeah. So, but welcome to.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to see both of you. Sherry, I haven't seen you in person in much too long. And Dawn, I've seen your name, but we haven't had a chance to meet. So it's great to see you digitally.
It'll be nice to be able to meet live humans again. You remember that?
Oh,
I
miss hugging everybody.
Yeah.
Bringing people together. That's what theater was always meant to do. And that, you know, and we're longing to get back to it. But you know, we just sort of wanted to do a thing to close out Women's History Month and sort of bring like the women of theater and the Theater Alliance Milwaukee together and just sort of talk about what we've been navigating in the past year. And so let's start with Joanna, because you've been doing and I know you like the spotlight so much.
Well, I've been like trying not to be on this particular episode because I have so many rage problems around being a woman in theater administration. So I was like, I'm a very volatile guest for today. And I think that every systemic problem that we faced before the pandemic has only been exacerbated by the pandemic, as with other systemic problems that we're slowly trying to dismantle. And it's been real hard. It's been really hard. But I think that the whole system that we swim in is just incredibly hierarchical and paternalistic. And it's just it's the air we breathe every day. So that's just reality, which is why, so for Dawn and Sherry don't know, but I wrote to Jamie Lynn this morning and said, like, it just makes me really angry to think about this subject. And so I'm uncomfortable with that anger. And I decided to just turn my attention instead to ways that Milwaukee Opera Theater specifically, so like action-oriented ways that we have dabbled with different models for producing theater that we've questioned, do things have to be this way? And so I sent her some photos, and we don't have to dive right into these. I want to hear what the other guests have to share.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we'll save it for later, But I just like went through a brief history of like, okay, what are ways that we've tinkered with expectations for producing theater or ways to treat artists, right? Because it kind of comes down to basic human dignity and treating our collaborators and the artists with whom we work like they are whole people with whole lives, and that we don't own them for the duration of their contract with us, and that if we want to attract the whole breadth of the human community to our art form, we have to accommodate the needs of moms, you know, and people who have different family arrangements and socioeconomic arrangements and their whole complete lives, right? So we can't, I think we just have we have a commercial model where we kind of treat actors as interchangeable cogs in a machine. And then that filters down even to avocational theaters, university programs, and community theaters as well, right? Like, but we're probably the best equipped to begin experimenting with different ways of doing things because we have the nimbleness or the academic orientation to kind of start to ask some hard questions.
Absolutely.
So how's your anger, Sherry?
Oh, you know, I'm nodding my head with everything that you were saying because I stand in agreement. And here I stand in the role as an artist, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a woman of a particular age as well, dealing with all sorts of isms, and also as an advocate for the students that I work with at the Peck School of the Arts. And I'm going to say my language is just, those of you who know me, you know, this is my language. I'm going to say, as I've tried to find the positive or the blessings that have come out of this experience, it's with the pandemic, it is that it has made the theater community examine itself. And for those who didn't want to examine themselves, it's given voice or an opportunity for those BIPOC members of the theater community, women in those who are differently abled in the theater community to speak up and to speak out and to make demands. And out of this have come standards that are, I'm going to say, adapted to meet the particular needs per the theater theatrical organization. And even at the Peck School of the Arts, for me, as I was directing a production that was recorded and will be a part of the Peck School of the Arts Theater Festival, virtual theater festival, I changed the rehearsal. I said, no, we're not going to rehearse on weekends.
Yeah.
Because you need time to recover and take care of yourselves as students and to meet those projects. So we'll rehearse, and it's going to be concentrated, but we will rehearse, you know, it's going to be Monday through Friday. But I tell you what, we'll take it each step of the way and examine how we are progressing. And if we don't need Friday, then we will not. If we look at our production calendar and we're ahead of schedule, we're doing really well, then I won't see you Friday. Because I want you to take care of yourselves. And we met virtually until we had to get into tech, and we're with each other. And then I said, in doing this, we're going to really watch out for each other. You're going to make certain choices because you care about not only yourself, but your castmates, your colleagues, your ensemble members. So yes, we're going to wash our hands. We're going to wear the mask. We're going to wear the singer's mask that looks like a duck bill. We don't like wearing it, but we're going to do this because it's the safer thing to do. It is the thoughtful and safe thing to do. So we're going to do all of that. We're not going to eat in the room. No. You know, with all of those precautions we took, and nobody got ill. No one became ill. And they were able to get their work done and they were happy. And that meant when these students, these cast members were in rehearsal, they could concentrate because they weren't worried about that exam and that project and so on. Mm-hmm. So they gave us the time. And we adjusted the schedule. We didn't start at 6 o'clock. We started at 7. And during the night, based upon what we wanted to accomplish, some nights we went to 10 and some nights we went to 9:30. Some nights we went to 9:15 because we got it done. And I don't believe in beating a dead horse. You know, it's just, okay, we accomplished it and we walk out satisfied. You've promised me that when we come together, we will not have lost anything. We're going to keep building and building on what we've done. And I had the happiest cast members. Oh, And the final project is one that they can be proud of, that we all can be proud of. But we changed how we did things. And I shared that with some of my colleagues, and they said, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? And I'm hoping that as we return to our theater making processes, that we will learn from our lessons and not return to what has been done before, because that's how we've always done it. We've learned some new ways of doing things, healthier ways, mentally and physically, of doing things. And let us proceed.
I'm so glad you shared that, Sherry, and talked us through the whole process. Yeah. That started with a moment of reflection, right? Which we don't start there by saying, this is the way we've always done it. Do we still like that? Is it still serving us?
Right. And even this idea of the 10 out of 12, it doesn't, accidents happen, people get hurt, it's emotionally taxing. It's not really helpful. We have to look at our production calendars and plan differently.
But it's interesting. You're all coming from the perspective of more professional level theater. Now, in community theater, it's all volunteer. So a lot of those things that in the work world, like I work in healthcare. So things like, shifts and all of that I remember in the early 90s really started to change. So it wasn't every weekend and this and that. But in community theater, I think that part of it has been sort of always there because everybody is a volunteer. Now, that being said, you also have a lot of old, outdated attitudes, and ways of doing things. And because, people think that theater is supposed to be a certain way, things have to fit in a certain box. I think it's been very difficult for some groups from community theater to professional to adjust to a new way of doing things. Now, Village Playhouse is small, and we perform in what was once a funeral home and then a church, a small stage. So I would call it, based on my experience, which includes professional, more black box. So we actually made the transition to virtual fairly easily, mainly because there were 3 women who said, no, we're doing it this way, end of discussion, have a nice day. And we've actually had moderate success with it. Our first production was like both hybrid, and 50 people actually came, which was shocking over the course of the run. It was in October. So that was a little surprising, but it was spaced out, so that was fine. Then we did a bigger 40s radio show in December, and same thing, pretty respectable considering pandemic and holidays. And then we've been doing every month a 1-act. Oh, hi, Katie. Oh. Mine is sleeping.
Every time.
I'm surprised mine isn't here yet, actually. And then we do an original 1-act festival every year. This is our 36th year. So it's Wisconsin Playwrights. They submit original 1-acts, we produce them. And we've done some of those every month, and that's actually gotten respectable attendance. So now we're looking at, since our metrics in Milwaukee County are better, will we be able to perform our 36th festival live? I have my doubts on it, but it's not something that I can say, here we are in March, yes, we can do it. So we're all in the same boat in that regard. We don't know. But we are going ahead with our April show, which will be virtual, and it's an evening of 1-act plays by George Bernard Shaw. And it's going well. And then the best part through all of this is that no one has gotten sick. Sometimes we have to remind people, put your mask on, but there's hand sanitizer everywhere. And I think the overall working atmosphere is, you're wearing a mask because you care about your fellow man, which is how it should be, because, I don't know, public health. I mean, if you had the measles, would you go to work? No, of course not. It's the same thing, and, it's a work in progress. Village Playhouse has a lot of growing pains, like I think a lot of groups do, but the women are taking over. So there we go. I'm not discounting the gentlemen in our group. They're wonderful, but right now our board is mainly women. So
I do think there's something to be said for that. But and especially when I was getting this episode together and thinking about the women that needed to be reached out to, there are a lot of women in leadership right now. And I think that's
It's better than it was 5 years ago.
Let's say on the smaller screens, there's a lot of women in leadership right now. I was thinking about this, in the car as I was driving today. That we're in a lot of ways, myself included, we're providing opportunities for ourselves, right? We haven't been able to break into the upper echelons of theater or whatever that is. So I was always taught, make opportunities for yourself, so some of that is like, okay, well, I want to make this kind of art, so I'm going to start making this kind of art. And you see that, Katie Cummings from Pink Umbrella, that she wanted to provide a space for disabled folks, and that's great. Jelana and your fringe opera. I mean, like micro opera, like what, like awesome accessible opera, like what's whatever that is. And, Village Playhouse, the people that I communicate are women over there, and then Sherry, at Bronze. But that's really across the board in a lot of small theaters. A lot of the Theatre Alliance companies are women. Mm-hmm. To that point, I do think that we have the tendency to, and this is just blanket statement, be caregivers more. And so I think that from my standpoint as an artistic director of a small company, in the way that we've handled this pandemic is reflected by, my caregiving sort of tendencies and whatnot. I don't know if any of you all have experienced the same things, and Dawn, if things would have
We're
been
women. That's traditionally women are caregivers. We take care of things. We manage the family. We manage everything. It doesn't feel that unnatural, to even be doing a lot of the administrative things, that, you end up doing in a volunteer theater. It just isn't. It's just like, oh, it's like being at home again, I think things are better. I'm just thinking back to like some of the first community theater shows I did when I was a kid. And I was trying to remember if there was ever a female director. I thought of one. I grew up in Menominee Falls, a nice white suburb, but then at the same time, I was also thinking about two things popped into my head. The first thing was our high school did You Can't Take It With You. And I'm actually embarrassed to say this, but, the characters of Donald and Reba, in the script are described as African-American. Mm-hmm. Well, they did blackface. And we were talking, now you would never do that today. And we were talking about this. And now, there's plenty of racists, that I know growing up. But honestly, I think the way that it was looked at was, oh, that's what the script says. Now, that's not an excuse. I'm certainly not condoning it. Because the other thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about race was, I don't think of people like that. There was a young man who auditioned, and he was cast in our first production of the season. Very nice young man. And when I think of him, I think of Karan, who is African-American. I think, oh, Karan, that handsome young man who's so good. That's what I think about. Now, I know I'm not alone, but I think it helps that the more people that are like that, if that makes any sense. Now, as far as women, I don't know when it started switching, but now I was trying to think of the women directors, with whom I've worked in the last, 10 years. And I could think of more of women than I could of men. Mm-hmm. Now I know that we have a long way to go, but maybe it's because I lived abroad for a long time, that I look at it as taking the progress where we can get it, and knowing that the journey is long from over. Maybe that's a good way to say it, but it does make you angry. I mean, how can you not feel angry?
Mm-hmm. Hearing your story and knowing, getting to know you, Dawn, and from the way you speak the words, you're coming from a place of open-heartedness, open-mindedness. But I also think there has to be an intentionality, being very deliberate in the choices that we're making in casting, in hiring our artistic talent. We have to be intentional and recognize that there are differences. And be it, I'm going to say this because out of this whole pandemic also was birthed the Milwaukee Black Theater Festival, which is very intentional in seeking works by Black playwrights in seeking casts that are BIPOC, in telling the story of the experiences of African Americans and really of Africans throughout the diaspora as the festival continues to grow, being very intentional in seeking BIPOC designers and directors and stage managers. It's important because they exist, but they often don't get the opportunity to share their talent.
That's true. They don't.
So I think there are many wonderful ways of looking at solving this problem of being homogenous, So the Milwaukee Black Theater Festival was one of the responses, and it was born out of an opportunity because the theater was closed. So then we can't do this production. Let's take the money that would have been invested in that and let's create the Milwaukee Black Theater Festival. So I'm grateful to Milwaukee Chamber Theater for having the vision, and for Bronzeville Arts Ensemble and Empower and Lights, Camera, Soul, and all the groups that participated in that first festival. And as we look to the second year, we're even more intentional in our program planning. So, but Dawn, I hear you, but there's no excuse today. No need for blackface. What happened 2 years ago, Jelana, you know about it, Porgy and Bess over in Europe, that was performed in blackface because they said they couldn't find the talent. They didn't want to find the talent.
But if you put it in the context of Women's History Month and women's suffrage, that's what women had to do. You had to be, here we are, and make those intentional choices of, women doing this. And the same is true now, as, this country and this world, tries to address, race relations. And I think it's important. Okay, like, this is maybe not the best example, but if you just ask 10 people on the street to name an African-American playwright, besides Lorraine Hansberry Sands or August Wilson, okay, one of those two, can they name one? I doubt it, or, I have a friend who doesn't like Hamilton because the cast isn't white. What? Really? You're kidding. So there's definitely a lot. There's definitely a lot to be said there. And I know I'm unusual. White girl growing up in suburbs. Actually having a fairly open mind. But I lived in Japan for 2 years, and it was the flip side of it because I was most definitely a minority, and it does change your perspective. And how you see things. And I think that's important that people get out of their comfort box and see the world for the wonderful, colorful place that it is. We've got a long way to go, but we're forward, I hope.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the for me the big silver lining too is the opportunity to step back and take the pause and realign and absolutely see all these things and like you said, being intentional and refocusing in an intentional way, because so many of us have worked so hard for so long, and like you said, like a lot of us women are working for free and volunteer and things like that just because we want to do the opportunities, and we're working so hard, working 2 or 3 theater gigs at a time, just trying to get our foot in there, that we can only focus on ourselves, that we didn't have the space to think more on a community sense. I know that this pandemic time for me and having to be home for my special needs kid has absolutely afforded me the time to step back and really look at things. And go, what do I want? What do I want when we get back? When we get back, or in quotation marks, when we get back. And I mean, I'm happy to say from the theater line perspective is that's absolutely the goal, is to intentionally be more diverse and equitable and get this ball rolling to stop being so white and patriarchal and homogeneous and all of those things. But you're right that it has to be okay. Go. Okay, go. But yes, you're right that I'm glad that the you know, of the leadership, that we have the leadership that we have to be able to make those changes.
Yes. And I also believe as women artists, we must start valuing what we bring. And a part of valuing what we bring is then saying, I am worth you investing in. Because when I come to the table, I bring this talent, I bring this experience, I bring this knowledge, I bring it, this is what I bring. So therefore, invest in me so that I don't have to work 2 and 3 theater jobs. But while I'm here, I am being paid. I have earned this amount of money being invested in me. Pay me. Pay me. I think we have to say the days of all that volunteering. You want to fill the seats with people who have an expectation of a highly produced play, musical, opera, then invest in me for what I'm bringing.
And it's funny too, it doesn't happen in community theater other than with the director. So I'm a costume designer and I made costumes for Oscar Wilde's Salome. I had zero money. So I took old costumes that were falling off racks and everything, and I made actually a very lovely show. And the fact, I think that if I would have asked, I said, oh, if I need 2 yards of interfacing, I think that you can't spend that. You know, well, actually, I probably would have said that because I probably would have bought it. But my point being, you know, is that all of those skills are important. And that's what brings a show. You know, it's not just the director, although the director is important, but your designers, your stage managers, you know, and all of those people. And in community theater, sometimes it's really hard to find people willing to do it. You know, I mean, I had a young designer, a young lady contacted the theater. She has a degree in fashion design and she wants experience in costume construction. So she was willing to work for free because she's going to build her portfolio, you know, but, you know, and she's willing to go buy things. And I'm like, no, you're not going to do that. You know, it's not necessary. You know, you're a professional. We expect to treat you that way. But I've had other designers contact me that they were interested in a show that we might be considering, but, you know, they're like, I can't work for free. And I can't argue with that. They have a professional skill. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, you see a lot of, you know, you think with the unions and things with pay scales and all that there would be more equity, but from what I understand from some of my female actress friends and designer friends, it's not. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty much true for, I think, every industry in this country, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is true. But, you know, things don't change because we wish it to be so or whatever. We have to work toward that and develop, I'm going to say, a language that supports that.
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying to Sherry before we started about how conversations like this are where things need to start. Like, you have to have the idea, and like you said, you have to start using the language, you have to start using the terms, you have to start using the conversation, you know, of even in theater and even in the arts, that we need to start talking about fair pay.
Absolutely.
And living wages.
Now, I can tell you at Brownsville Arts Ensemble, we don't do many productions. The reason, we pay everybody. Even the children who are in our casts are paid. So we do a reading and then we do a production, because that's what our pennies, our dollars can afford. Because you just, the people who are working with us, from if there's a production with a child in it all the way through the adults. And by the way, I'll just put it like this: we probably pay better than most okay, we are on par with the professional theater companies that are the regional and the, you know, we are, yes. Yes. So we're not going to do as many productions, but when you work with us, you know we respect you, we value you, and we're thankful for you.
I think that gets back to what we were talking about with dignity and just creating an environment and creating a workspace where people, like you said, aren't getting exhausted and because you can't be the artist you want to be, even if we're working in environments where you have a day job and then we're going to rehearsal afterwards, which is what a lot of us non-equity storefront companies are doing. We all work during the day and then we do rehearsals at nights and sometimes on weekends. Mm-hmm. That things are done in a way that is healthy. Yes. and able to, I know that what we try to do at the Constructivists is I do try to do a professional hour schedule where professional environments are doing 3 weeks at 40 hours a week because they're doing daytime work. So we're doing 6 weeks at 20 hours a week because that's people are doing their jobs during the day. But similarly, Barry, what you were saying, if people get tired, go home. We take off on Fridays. We take off on, not right now, honey. We take off on Fridays because by the time, especially with the work that we're doing, by Friday, people are exhausted. You need to take that Friday off, come back to me Saturday morning and we'll do it that way. And, but how do we get all theaters talking in this? Yeah, I think, and similarly, getting rid of the 10 to 12s and providing that dignity and fair pay and getting back to where art was fun, because I remember a time where you get burnout and you get so tired and you're like, what am I doing this for? Because I'm working my 40-hour a week job. This is supposed to be the good time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, this is supposed to be the time when I'm getting my passion and fulfillment. And over the past decade in my artistic instance, there's been a lot of time where I haven't felt that dignity, where I haven't felt being treated as an equal, where I haven't been treated as human.
Mm. In that situation, did you speak up? Did you say anything, or did you feel you had the power to? Or
of course not. Okay. Of course not. Okay. Of course not, because you don't want to be, first of all, as a woman. Mm-hmm. There are so many women in theater, and you can be replaced, mm-hmm. and the whole thing. So you don't want to be a burden. Mm-hmm. You got to be tough. I can do this.
Well, not only that, too, our society does not reward people who speak up. Like Jamie Lynn said, I mean, as somebody who has actually been involved in my industry in whistleblower situations, it sucks. Oh, you're the snitch, you're this, you're that, but I guess to me, at some point, if you don't stand up for what's right, how do you know what you stand for? What do you believe in if you can't stand up for it? And it's not an easy position to take. And unfortunately, there are people, in the arts, and other places who don't have that luxury of being able to stand up for what they believe in because they have, a family they have to support or just the trauma, that they've experienced makes them, psychologically unable to stand up. I mean, I've seen a lot, and sometimes it's hard to stay positive about it because it just seems that it's never ending. And it's choosing and intending, to do things. And sometimes what is that adage about the road is paved with good intentions?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That's true. There we go. So
I'm good at that one.
Yeah, I think as women, I think as women, the best thing we can do is support each other, so that, if you have somebody who has an issue or something, that you have at least a sounding board or, that some kind of support, there's so much happening in the world, and you can distill it down to, an industry, but ultimately it all goes back to the same thing, treating people with dignity and respect.
I think that's, I'll just say, speak for myself. As a woman, as a director, that's one of my strengths. I do speak up and I advocate for the talented people who are in the cast. And most of the time it's a very favorable outcome, because sometimes people just don't realize what they've said or what they've done or how they've caused some damage. They're not aware. And I found when I've come and I said, this happened or this was said, and I believe if you were to come and make a statement or say that, it would help boost the morale of the ensemble or that person, or there was some harm done, there was some hurt there. And most of the time, I didn't realize, oh, really? Thank you for making me aware, Sherry. Yes, by all means, let's handle this. Let's take care of this.
And that's speaking up, you're awesome. I think we could have been like kindred spirits in another world, because these are things I say,
We are, Dawn.
It's true. I'm just thinking of people when I've told them, if you have, people have come to me, so, I think that's a role that we can play, mentoring, and, advocating, that's the word you used, advocating, for, people in our field, and, there's safety in numbers, and we just need to get everybody in that number.
There is safety numbers. There is strength in numbers, which is what the Theater Alliance is all about.
Now I have that song from The Boyfriend stuck in my head. There's safety in numbers.
We could absolutely go on and talk about this for all of eternity. And I think the important thing is, like I said again, that we start these conversations, and we need to keep talking about them, and more people need to start, jumping into these discussions about all these ethics that we've been talking about. Joanna, do you want to talk about your anger a little bit, now that your computer seems to have...
I'm enjoying the privilege of listening to this conversation. I've learned so much, and I'm grateful for everything that you've shared that I've been able to listen to. And my internet's been a little bit rocky. I have so much to say about all of the points that you've made. They resonate in a different ways. Personally, I was schooled to be very quiet, and the competition is so high that you don't rock the boat in any way at all ever. You need to be perfect all the time. And you need to be what the organization or institution wants you to be, not who you are, that was, only about 20, 25 years at school for me. So, and Sherry's nodding her head. I think that's, pedagogy and academia is one of the systems. It got me when I shared photos with you, Jamie Lynn, it made me think about this is going to be slightly off topic, but related. But I can remember panel discussions I've been on where singers ask if they should wear, female singers ask if they should wear a wedding ring to audition, or to audition for an agent, because assumptions, right? It seems so outrageously inappropriate to consider, but they've looked at me and asked sincerely, because they might not get the job because maybe they'll have a baby and that'll interfere with the production's timeline, or they might be demonstrating that they're not fully committed to their career because they want to have a life, so there are very big issues around all of that. And I think that they're related to your observation that there is a great deal of gender parity, at least in small orgs. Largely, I think, because women are forced to prioritize flexibility over pay in many facets of life, right? Because of caregiving obligations. So female applicants for positions, they tend to have weaker resumes, particularly around childbearing years, you know, when they may have stepped away for a spell, because, and those are just assumptions that we make, you know, but it makes it ever harder to sort of progress. So when you look at, you know, the opera statistics are like totally atrocious, right? It's 100% white and 100% male, like at the highest echelon of organizations. Now, in the last 10 months, some progress has been made. All of a sudden, you know, like all of a sudden we're making some positions and we're making some adjustments, like it has a problem for 200 years. But, you know, it's kind of happening sorta, but it's still, it's very uphill. I mean, it's a steep uphill climb.
You know,
and your resume is not going to look as spiffy as a male resume whose female, a male person's resume whose female partner raised their kids. You know?
Yes.
So,
Jalila, you just said something that I really have believed this, but when any organization, it can be any business is in trouble, calling a woman, calling a person of color.
well, yeah. I've joked with many colleagues about the working mom, you know, because like they can work a schedule and like,
get it done, get the job done.
Like there's no inefficiency. Yeah.
Yes. Whenever I see the announcements and I want to think, oh, this is progress. No, what I'm seeing is, oh, that was a company that's in trouble and they need somebody that knows how to fix stuff to make it better, to get it done.
Yeah, I think about what you said about the wedding ring thing, and I also think about how, especially my years in Chicago, for the first 7 or so years, I just would not talk about Aurora because same thing, like they're going to think that you're not going to be able to get rehearsal on time, you're not going to be able to be as flexible to be like you said, that we don't to be part of that ownership system, that if you're working for this company, they own you no matter how much money you're not getting paid, and so same thing. And it's only been recently that I'm just like, no, she's here, she's part of my existence. And things that we've been talking about with the Theater Alliance and other organizations is, how can we in the future get companies to provide childcare and to incorporate women and women of color back into the system, so that they're not having to choose between children or their art. You can have both, but the organizations themselves need to be part of that system and recognizing that those people are important. Their voices are important. They need to be in the theater universe.
Just what you said, Jamie Lynn, using our voices and our presence, bringing that with us when we're in positions of decision making, then being a part of the process of making it happen. That's what it takes.
I'm hopeful.
I truly am. Because I'm already seeing some progress. Little, but progress.
Yeah.
What's sad though for some of these things is it takes things like a global pandemic for those changes to happen. So here in America, we have more than 500,000 people dead. And yes, I appreciate the small changes, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm numb to it now. At first it was just, oh my God, what the many bad words ladies don't say. And it's like, what it takes that, and again, I think that I had a very unusual upbringing in that, aside from the fact that, my parents, raise us, to be, hate people because of how they looked or spoke or anything, and living in another country, that maybe, I look at things, a little differently. I can't remember a time when my mother said I wouldn't be able to do something, or my dad for that matter. But that doesn't mean that I didn't experience the sexual harassment and, and then, a lot of the other things that, many women, have faced. But there was one instance that stuck in my mind, that just reminded me of just maybe how humanity should be. When I was about, I think, 5 or 6, our neighbor had, she was a widow, and her son was very developmentally disabled. And some of the kids would make fun of him in the neighborhood. And my mom and dad took my sister and I aside and explained to us that, why, Todd, that was his name, wasn't exactly like us, and, we shouldn't treat him any differently. And that really stuck with me. And so, I mean, obviously I'm not perfect, but things like that to me would just be the way I would always want the world to be. But I guess growing up, being naive enough to think that just because my mom and dad said so, that's the way it would be, So then when you go out in the big bad world, and you discover that it's not, it's kind of disillusioning. But at the same time, because, well, tact doesn't run in our family, let's just say that. Speaking up wasn't an issue, but it had a big cost, and that's the other part that just is so frustrating, just from everything, not being able to stay all the way at rehearsal because I was taking care of my mother, who was dying, and it's just, and now with so many people having to deal with elder care, child care and elder care, yes, it's progress. Yes, I appreciate it. But at the same time, it just makes me so sad that it took a global pandemic to even get that little bit.
I agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No,
you're way wrong. You talk.
No, but you know something, Dawn, oh my gosh, my heart, I'm right there with you. As a person who was my mother's primary caregiver during the time when my career was really, really, that's when I was performing, and I was my mother's primary caregiver. My mother passed away in 96, and then I was secondary in line for my dad, who passed away in 98. But I can say this for the Milwaukee theater community, which is where I was working, they got it and they supported me. And if I had to leave, if I got a phone call and needed to leave, it was like, go, Sherry, and come back when you can. If you can't, then just make sure that you study this and that and the other so that we can pick up with the blocking and blah, blah, blah. This was, but I don't know, maybe the theater community too has had some adjustments since 96 too. But I can tell you during that time, people got it and they were very supportive. And I was going through this at a time very early in my life. What I mean by that, because my parents had me in their 40s. So I was going through this earlier, whereas now the people who are of my generation are now taking care of their parents who already have gone through this. So what it has done is it's made me very sensitive and compassionate. So that, and I've been through raising a child and so on. So I get it. And so it's made me an advocate then for the artist who is caregiving, be it a child, be it a parent. But if you are caregiving, I understand. So, let's work it out. And I always feel the talent, the gifts that people bring to a project are worth it, are worth working through, whatever the situation is.
Well, and it goes back to, valuing each other, dignity, respect. I mean, all those things. I mean, everybody's story, to me, I love everybody's stories. I want to know what makes people tick. I want to know all of those things. I just think it makes the world a better place. One of my friends just told me his 99-year-old mother just took her driving test. Apparently, wherever she lives, she has to take an annual. Here's the thing, though. She's had to take it every year for some time now. She passes every time. She's 99. Wow. I'm like, wow, I don't parallel park. This 99-year-old lady has a driving test. Those are the stories this is just, I love that. That's, and as I am an actress too, I mean, you bring that into your performance and it just, but if everybody had that same caring and compassion, for their fellow man, that, it wouldn't be that, oh yeah, oh, wedding ring. Okay. Oh, you had kids. Oh yeah, you can't be considered for tenure. Oh no, you can't be the manager, it's just, yeah.
Well,
I want to think about that 99-year-old lady. She rocks.
I remember casting for a show I was directing at Skylight, I'll just say a very voluptuous woman in the role of the love interest when I was putting the production together in the role, and people were like, huh, what? I said, yes.
She's wonderful.
Absolutely.
But and the appearance thing. Okay, so I have two that just are one of these is very cool. I'm short. I'm 5'1", and I auditioned for Anne of Green Gables the musical once. And I didn't know where I was going. So I showed up early and I stopped this gentleman who I did not know was the director. I said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm looking for the Anne of Green Gables auditions." And he took a look at me and he said, "Oh, well, the auditions for Anne, were an hour ago." Okay, so I was a grown up and I just sort of looked at him and it took me and I'm like, oh, no. I'm a grown up. Really, and okay. The other one was I lived in Southern California for a decade, and I went to an audition. I went early because of traffic, and I got called in with a group of 10, and they were all kids. The director actually asked me what grade I was in. I'm like, I'm a grown up. Do you want to see my driver's license? But at the same time, I'm thinking, hey, I think I look like an adult. And that's it's a small thing, but that gets extrapolated onto the much bigger things like size, race, sex, and all of that. So it's a weird world we live in.
I do want to sneak in here because Steve Decker asked a question, and I'd like to see people's thoughts on this. Flash forward magically 6 months. What is your wish for our theater community?
Live performances, please.
I mean, yeah, I guess where would we be at? We're in March, so that's September. I'd like us to be back in the same room.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm working with both Sherry and Dawn and Jamie Lynn, and that we are using our imaginations to make the world a better, more equitable place for everybody. And I hope that we're doing that through some live theater that is produced safely.
I miss
Those are my dreams.
No, not that. I'm sorry, my computer just said no.
Nice. Always good times when the technology does that. I think we just all are really hoping for normalcy to come back sooner rather than later. And that everybody can stay as healthy as possible. So, I do hope that people out there can, do what you can to help us get back to work as soon as possible. Keep wearing your masks, keep keeping safe distance. Just follow the science so that we can all get back to art and concerts and dance and all those live emotional things that we as humans need, because man, we've all been lonely. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. The isolation is just especially if you're a real social person, there's only so much Zoom, StreamYard, any other platform you can handle. And I love to go to the theater and the opera and the ballet, and it's not the same online. It's just not. I want the visceral experience of Tosca. I want the visceral experience of Madame Butterfly and Swan Lake and Shakespeare. even, at this point, I'd even sit through The Odd Couple, and I hate that show. So either version. So.
And Tori says more funding for Wisconsin arts, that she hopes to see that. That is a completely separate discussion that, and I mean, we've already been at this for an hour, and I thank you ladies so much for your contributions to the Milwaukee arts community. This is part of a greater discussion. Like there are so many issues here that we could talk for hours. I do need to get you back, Miss Sherry, to talk about all that's been going on over there at Bronzeville. And I mean, you are an epic 5-hour HBO mini series in and of yourself. So
you are sweet.
So I think we need to find some time to get you back here, because there's so much work to do.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be nice to have a networking event if we could do, if Milwaukee Theatre Alliance, when we get to the point where we could actually have live events get together. A Village Playhouse would be able to host something like that.
That would be awesome.
I would love to meet live events again.
We were planning networking events, I think we had a social mixer or something planned in March of last year, and that was well, I guess that's not happening. So there's so much work to do, but like I said, I'm hopeful. I am grateful for the spotlight that has been put on all the work that we have to do, because it needs to be done. The change has to happen. Full stop. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's going to take the women to get it done, right, ladies?
That's what did Sojourner Truth say? If it took a woman to turn this world upside down, then all of these women working together can turn it right side up again. So let's do it.
There we go.
Awesome. Jelena, I think I'll bring you back, and we'll do those pictures another time. I also just want to say that, I was gonna show our newsletter that went out this week that had Village Playhouse, the Shaw event coming up next month. So
yes, April 15th through the 25th, and our publicity marketing committee is all girls.
Well, I think that goes without saying. I think marketing is all women now. Well, no, AJ is over at Next Act, but so that's But you can find, for those of you out there who are new or whatnot, you can go to the MilwaukeeTheatreAlliance.org and find links to all of these companies and their amazing artists. And we'll bring Sherry back, and we'll bring Dawn back, and we'll bring Jelena back, because this is a weekly program. We have got the time. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Jamie Lynn. Very nice to meet you all virtually.
Nice to meet you virtually.
Dawn, and good to see you, Jamie Lynn.
It's great to see you too.
She is right now, Jelena.
I think she's just having a bad internet day. You're having the computer day, she's having the internet day, and hope. Yeah. So, thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You've got a thing.
Yes, we do.